Yo, what is happening? It's your boy Roy, and it's another episode of Sync Gems. It's actually not another episode of Sync Gems. I was lying to you. It is episode 100 of Sync Gems. Pam, pam, pam. Episode 100. Fuck's sake. It's crazy. I'm super duper happy to be here. Episode 100. It's 2 years. Wow. What can I tell y'all? It's crazy. It's crazy, and yeah, I've accomplished so much in these 2 years, and only because of this podcast, only because of y'all, and only because I was able to do something that's very natural to me and actually touch people's lives. So that's been super crazy, and I'm really, really grateful for 2 years and whoever stuck with it 2 years. And I don't know, I feel like I almost talked to most of my listeners one-on-one, which is crazy. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for listening, for being a part, for showing up for yourself and for your sync career and for me. Because every time you guys tune in, this gives me a reason to keep on going. So, oh my God, 100 episodes. This is crazy, crazy, crazy. Wild. Today on episode 100, we have a special guest that's coming on for the second time. Josh Williams, aka J Will, XJ Will, he writes it. And in this one, he does not hold back. Last time we talked about his story, his trajectory. Now, this guy is like a 2.0 version of himself every time I meet him, and that is crazy. First of all, it's crazy because I'm surrounded by people like this, but it's just crazy to have a person like that who grows, makes huge steps every time I see him. So literally, the guy spills all the beans. He talks about his efficiency hacks, how he divides his time. And the reason I think that it's so important is because this dude has a lot happening. He just started his own little sync conference. It's not little anymore because they have too many people for the last venues that they did for Shades of Sync. And now they're going to a new venue, and it's just, the guys just go follow him, please, if you haven't. I mean, 100,000 followers or more on IG, so you're probably following him, but if you're not, follow him because he shares amazing knowledge too. He is a proper music geek, but also has a proper community for people like us, and I've spoken to his community twice, and they are legit, like legit. So I'm super fired up about this conversation because, again, he goes in super specific. He talks about how he collaborates, how he chooses collaborations. We talk about little tricks and things that you can do to enhance your creativity. He just goes in for an hour. So I'm super grateful to have him on this 100th episode, and I'm not going to say anymore because this guy is just, whew, y'all are going to get blown away. Y'all know how you can support the podcast. Go ahead, follow it, subscribe to it, do whatever so that you get the notifications when an episode comes through. Another thing is the 11 Gems PDF gets you into my newsletter, and you get that free PDF. You're going to be subscribed to my Substack, which through that you're going to get updates about what's going on, my insights, and a lot of things. So you get the free PDF, but on top of it, you get all the news and all the tea from the sync world that I see during the week, or more insights from the guests. So please go ahead, press the link in the description, subscribe to the Substack, and you'll get the free PDF. And on top of that, you're gonna get a whole lot of gems. There's huge things coming out this year. This year, camps, things that I'm wanting to bring to fruition that I've been wanting to do for a while. But now it's episode 100, and without further ado, my amazing guest, Josh Williams, aka J Will, aka the King. You are here for. I just invented that. You don't look that up on Instagram, but
slides 20
under the. I'm so stoked to have you. I came up with this vision a few weeks ago. I was like, man, let's do 100 with Josh, because I haven't caught up with you since PMC last year. We haven't caught up since then, and you've been just doing so many things. You've been doing some really amazing things that I'm curious about, that I was just watching from the sidelines and kind of admiring. You have a beautiful community of people that I got the privilege to go in and listen to the tracks of. And yeah, I look at the way you move, and a lot of things are things that I want to imitate. And like I'm not even gonna front. Um, how's the last year been? What's been going on? I feel like maybe how was 2024 for you? What's like, let's just take it from there since last time we talked.
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for the honor to come back on. I hope I didn't wear out my welcome from last time. So when you messaged me, you were like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Oh, of course I do." So thanks again. I've always been a huge fan of the podcast and stuff, and some really great insights as always. And it's always just cool to talk to an amazing human being like yourself.
Right.
But as far as with me in 2024, it's just more of the same, I would
Mm,
say, in a sense, just
mm,
because I think when it comes to sync licensing, as I'm sure many of your listeners understand, it's a long game. So basically, you could be successful at it just as long as you don't quit. So that's how I approach a lot of things, just because growing up as a musician, you just continue to do it until you don't stink at it anymore. So we did our second year of Shades of Sync. I think that was probably the second largest thing for my personal sync career
yeah.
as far as impact was concerned, just because we were able to gather more sponsors this year. We kind of started to figure out how things worked when it came to um, having logistics and things of that nature for a larger public event as
Yeah.
such, and especially because we maximized different things in that business, where it was, at first we didn't have as many female composers and artists that we were wanting to feature the first time, just because we didn't know a lot. And then the next time around we had tons. It was almost 50-50, which was what we aspired to do in the first place. So like there was a lot of things that we had written down that we were able to accomplish with Shades of Sync this past year, just because of having a lot more resources, realizing that the sync circle is a lot smaller than many think, and having the ability to maximize on that. The most impactful thing for me outside of Shades was being able to meet a lot of my private community members in person, because we have our own community and things of that nature. And it's always, I mean, you see people on screen to screen like we experience now,
Yeah.
and it's just so cool to be able to actually shake someone's hand you've known for a year or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a very surreal experience, and we even shared that when we finally met each other in person at PMC, which is really cool. And I hope to do this year. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, outside of that, man, just the same stuff. That, and then just collaborating more often is something that I try to have to. That was probably the biggest theme of last year, as we were mentioning earlier, prioritizing and finding. You just need one domino to fall over in order to get the big thing that you want further down the line. So just finding out what that is instead of being distracted with a bunch of other things that might be going on at the same time is probably the biggest leverage thing that I've found to be helpful.
Mm. So was the first domino for you community or shades, or what was that first domino?
The first domino for me was delegation, believe it or not, just because there's only maybe 8 to 15 hours a day I could work, right? You got other responsibilities, you got family to take care of, and things of that nature. So I seriously, especially with all the content and stuff that I have to make for helping to share information and things of that nature,
Mm.
we doubled down and seriously got a lot of extra help with managing the community. My wife does a lot of the video editing and stuff now, so that's another thing that now that those things are delegated or taken off my plate, I can focus more on making more music, helping other people, and things of that nature.
Yeah, your wife is dope. I got to meet her. She's awesome human being. Shout
For
outs.
sure.
And yeah, she's just so supportive of your career and what you're doing, and she's lit up. She's like, yeah, she's it's amazing, man. It's really special, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think like I always try to be grateful for that opportunity because I just basically get to grow up, or I never get to grow up, and I just get to make. I bang on pots and pans for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's just like, yeah, that's what he does. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's definitely a privilege. It didn't start that way. Just because when we first got married, there was I was just trying to figure out sync, and for anyone that's been in a long term relationship and you start from terrible circumstances, it's
Mm,
really like, all right, you
mm,
sure you going to do this? Like,
mm.
stuff is looking kind of rough. You
Yep.
want to take another job or something like that?
Yep.
But she was very patient and continues to be for other ventures and things of that nature that I tend to lean towards doing more and more often. So, yeah, shout out to her
Yeah, it's been I mean, man, I feel like has there been a specific, I mean, hardship that you'd like to share? Because now what people see, like, is what you have right now, which is Shades and Sync, which is hundreds of thousands of followers, which is a beautiful community. I can attest to that. A beautiful community of really, really talented people who are hungry. Like, you've created an ecosystem around yourself. What was a point where you were like, damn, well, like is this gonna be a thing? Like, what's was there a moment where you were like really in doubt?
for shades. I think because I surrounded myself with others that had the same determination. The only
Yeah.
thing we were worried about was just making sure all the bills were paid. And by the
Yeah.
time that happened, it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the event happened, like actually. So there was no doubt that that was going to be okay. But when I think about doubt as if I was going to be able to do music full time, that definitely was there because of just the frustration of having to understand the hurry up and wait game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So I tried to make my how can I put this? I tried to make sure that my circumstances were facilitated in a way that I could lengthen the time period it might take. So, for instance, when my wife and I first got married, we moved into an apartment that a friend owned, and our rent was like $450. You know what I
right.
mean? I tried to keep all expenses as low as possible because I was like, I know this thing will work somehow. So as
Yeah.
long as like we got food, a roof over our head, and things of that nature, it will give me the time to figure it out. And
Yeah.
so when that happened, and it took 3 years, man, like can you imagine 3 years of not knowing how to mix and master, trying to figure that stuff out, running to a full-time job, coming back, like waking up early in the morning, trying to start something, going to work, being on YouTube, trying to learn as much as I can on my breaks,
Yeah.
going back to work, coming home, um, dinner with family, and then for like another 3-4 hours before I go to bed, I'm trying to finish the track. And
Yeah.
so like 3 years of that. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you probably by year two, my wife's like, I don't know, man, this is looking kind of weird. Like we're making it, but you sure like stuff started to happen around month 18 as I can recall, but like it wasn't consistent enough to make a living from.
Right.
So um that that learning curve after you normally after you get your first placement, um it gives you enough energy to kind of push forward because like if I can do it once, I'm pretty sure I can do it again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there, and I mean that's actually like I am as we speak. I'm creating a kind of a because I've had a track that has had crazy success. I'm creating a like a mini course around it,
Nice.
around how I feel like it happened to me, and how and the elements that I think that are going to be repeated by me in the future. So um the reason I'm going into it is because it comes from two things, main things, and it's tracking, and it comes from also from being able to acknowledge yourself, and your successes. And we were talking before we were going on the podcast, like the thing is with prioritizing, and just like you said, delegating, prioritizing, being able to understand what really matters right now. Once one is able to do that, I feel like the first domino is already fallen, and you realize that it's fallen. So you let the momentum go, as opposed to you stop. You let the dominoes, the first domino fall, which I feel like happens to a lot of people. They let the first domino fall, and then they stop it without knowing, because their priorities are all messed up because they don't know that the first domino's fallen. So it's like there's a whole vicious cycle over there that's happened to me multiple times. And and that's the biggest thing is like I feel like 2025 for me is a year where I prioritize much better. So I'm 3000% with you on that, like prioritizing, being able to say, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Let me focus on this or on that. Plus, having a surrounding, like creating, which is so important. And I feel like in the age of AI, there's nothing more important than just like having realness, having that realness around us, like having that realness, having people giving us direct feedback, and not like wishy-washy kind of feedback, having labels to work with that are don't answer you after 2 months, all these
Hmm.
kinds of things that we've all seen, I feel like. And the biggest theme that I hear from you is just, measuring things over time and narrowing down on what works. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, totally. That's that's how anyone gets more efficient at anything. Is I'm a huge proponent of not wasting any extra effort on something that is not that is null and void, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
So especially, I mean, you think about it as producers, that's essentially what we're doing when we want a track to work. I'm doing a new series on social media called Why It Popped. And like the first track we have, it's the most simple thing that you could ever make. It's like maybe 3-4 elements.
Yeah.
It was for a Twix commercial. So like they got plenty of capital to spend on something like
Yeah.
that, especially during the time that they actually published said song for
Yeah.
that commercial. And so you think about being self-aware to the point of maybe using the comparison of a production of a track. You can only have maybe 3-4 things happening at the same time that a listener is actually going to be able to pay attention to. So
Right.
if you narrow that down, it's the same thing with how you mix and master. Like if you have a kick driving the track, then that's going to be your most important thing you want to get right first. Then you can move on to other stuff.
Right.
So yeah, that I strongly believe that that's the only way to really do that kind of stuff nowadays, especially in 2025. We did a prediction thing last week when it came to different trends that are possibly going to be in the market this upcoming year or this year, and because of how AI kind of changes the landscape a bit, authenticity is going to be extremely important, and the only way I believe that we can do that is through, um, as you were saying, just being as real as possible with just the human nature of things, and also branding, because most people that are trying to turn and burn a profit on intellectual property made by AI, which technically is at this moment in time as of recording, still technically something you can't legally do as
Yeah,
far as with copyright and things of that nature.
yeah,
But 9 times out of 10, they don't have like a full artist profile because it's not a real person.
yeah,
You see what I mean? And from interviewing hundreds of music supervisors, that is something that has become a very huge flag that I'm starting to see more and more often, which is like you have to be authentic, and you have to actually have some genuine artistry when it comes to your music. Because
right,
I mean, at this point in time, especially with production value, like that stuff is a lot easier to come by now. So, what makes you different? What's your sonic fingerprint?
right. What's your sonic fingerprint?
My sonic, we were talking about this earlier in our community. My sonic fingerprint, I think, is ear candy. I
Yeah,
love
sound
using
design.
random, weird, crazy sounds in
Yeah,
production, even if it doesn't need it. And sometimes it
yeah,
might shoot me in the foot. But like there that, and then there's I work on my push exclusively,
yeah.
and there is a melody that I try to hide in all my songs, almost kind of like a beat tag,
Mm,
but it just helps me have that like individualistic thing, and
that's really
it kind of
cool.
makes an X and a J on my push.
That's
So it's
amazing.
really cool to kind of try to hide it, whether that be like just elongating it so like it doesn't take away too much attention from the melodies and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's really cool. Really cool. Yeah, something that came up is that there's a thing in reality now, that in reality TV where they stop, a lot of shows ask exclusively to stop doing all the pizzicato and all these things that are typical reality.
Hmm.
And I've noticed that people ask for more authentic elements. So like for me, I mean, I have a guitar here, and I love playing guitar. So that, plus putting vocal elements of me that nobody else can replicate, that because it's my voice, so it's only been used once,
Hmm.
is has to be in all my tracks. Sometimes I put in beatboxing, like just like like kind of like Timbaland, where I would
Totally.
start a track beatboxing, and it would sound sometimes like poop, but it just like I just put it in the back, put some flanger on it or whatever, and then it's just so back in the track that you don't understand why your head is bopping and why you love the sound. Then I tell you, yeah, there's actually a whistle. I'm actually whistling in the track or something like that, you know.
Nice.
You know, um which is, yeah, so I feel like the biggest takeaway is have something that is completely sonically yours, that you can shift and change and modify, and in the end of the day, it's almost like AI will have to be behind you, if that makes sense,
Totally,
in a
because
way.
it's always learning from what you feed it. So in order for it'll never get ahead because we're the ones originating the music in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, that is super huge. What do you do, like, do you have sound design sessions? Like, how do you work on that candy? Do you work on it like in tracks? Do you work on it in context? Do you do like sessions for it? How do you go about it?
I am what you call a hoarder of sound. I have every cymatics, every native instruments pack that you could probably think of
Mm,
on maybe two different hard drives. And What I always say is I never want to know what's all on it as far as the hard drive. And I think
Mm,
this was I stole it from Boy Wonder when he was doing interviews when he was writing on Drake's Scorpion album, where like there's such a joy when you find something on your while you're scrolling through samples and things. You're like, whoa, what is that? You know what I mean? And so
yeah,
like that to me is something I always want to contain and keep when I'm producing.
yeah,
So normally I will spend somewhere between 4 to 7 hours on a track because I want to make sure that I want my music to sound expensive, and the only way I can do that is with intention. So
right.
every piece of sound that I want to manipulate or use, whether that be tools like Omnisphere, have you ever tried the random series like Random Metal or Random from Beat Surfing?
Nope.
Oh man, it is a very cool concept. I have to show it to you
Yeah,
after the
yeah,
podcast. But like those kinds of things, it's they're so unique that it's almost impossible for me to replicate after I'm finished. So
yeah.
like those are the kinds of things I think are really cool because it helps my music feel more in the moment because
Mm.
it's based off of pure inspiration at the moment at that time. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that so to what you're saying, I feel like if you finish making a track, like let's say you produce a track, you got the melody, you got everything down, and you can't say what in this track represents you, I think that it's probably not gonna be a significant track. Like maybe it'll get some placements, but it's not gonna be a significant like whoa track kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that yeah, it's just like to reflect on what you're saying plus 100%.
You always want to get the and I know you understand this as a jazz musician, but like you always want to get the woo effect.
Yeah,
Like when you get this, or I guess the best way to translate for producers is like the stank face.
yeah.
So I need to have that somehow. And with ear candy, it's really interesting because, and I don't know if this is a universal thing, but what I always like to do with ear candy is I will only play it once. Like I don't care how cool the sound is. I really want to replicate it and do it again, maybe later in the track. I'm only going to play it once because
Okay.
it builds this anticipation for the listener that I can't replicate any other way. Because it's
Mm,
just like if you do a double take and you're like, "What the heck was that?"
mm.
and then you wait and listen for it again, it never happens.
Whoa.
A, it gives you more replay value, right?
Yeah.
And then B, it's just like I got to play it again. That was wild.
That's crazy. I've never thought of it like that because I mean, let's say in a genre like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a trailer composer, but in a genre like trailer, there has to be like an ear candy that kind of repeats and represents the song, and that is kind
Hmm.
of the signature of the track. But I feel like in other styles, like what you're saying is totally valid. Like, where maybe also in trailer it can work with something very minor, but I feel like in general, having something that really hooks the ear and then not bringing it back can add some real value to the track.
It makes another moment. And the more moments we have in our music, the more options we're giving the editors, the supervisors, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like I love that stuff. I really do.
How do you create moments? Like do you have a thing that you kind of do with your music that is kind of like intentionally creating moments, or do you feel like it's already embedded in your music making process? What do you feel like it is right now?
So for me, a moment is determined by, and I wish I could show you my screen because I have Ableton pulled up, but like I
Yeah.
have an arrangement um track and I have
Yeah.
color coded intro, chorus, verse, chorus, intro, bridge, chorus, what have you.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
I'll do to those are my moments and they're all colored differently. And
Mm.
so I want to try to the goal for me is I want to try to fit as many other separate colors inside of that as possible. So if I'm like, okay, ear candy would sound cool here, I'll make a MIDI block or whatever with nothing in it and I'll say like something special has to happen here. And
Wow.
that way, now when I'm looking at it, I can see the candy before it happens or even before I'm like, all right, something needs to happen here. I don't know what it is, but timing is, I think, sometimes more important than melody. And so, when that happens, like, all right, something, I need to either flip the beat or do something so that I can have that extra moment that they might be able to grab and use. I think,
Mm,
and I don't know if we've talked about this last time, but I'm a huge basketball nerd. Like, I love watching
okay.
basketball. And the concept that I always like, and I share this with the community all the time, you want to cross over your listener over ever so slightly to the point where they might trip a little bit, but you won't want them to fall and embarrass themselves. Because
Mm,
to me, that gives me goosebumps to expect something and they go left and it sounds really cool. You know what I mean? And it
yeah,
happens all the time when you're playing live with a piano player and maybe they catch something that you're doing, they put a really cool chord behind you. And
right.
so I try to replicate that through production by finding a way to um, build anticipation and tension or go in a different direction before returning back home to what the listener expects.
Mm,
So I don't know.
yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I just love the fact that I can be here and kind of geek out with you because um I think there's a lot of people who are out there and are spreading information are doing it, and it's kind of like coaching. It becomes because sync is becoming a more prevalent thing, and it's becoming a little bit of a money grab.
Mhm.
And I've heard your music, and I know that it sounds fucking next level. Even when when there was the like the the
Oh, the
demo
demo derby.
derby. Yeah, and the dude
That was
from
really
Warner
cool.
Chapel was like, he listened to like 15 seconds. He was like, okay, well, let's talk. Like it it. I feel like it debunks that myth of I mean, influencers and hard work and real gigs cannot really happen together because you have to put all your eggs in that basket of being an influencer or something like that. And I feel like with you, it's not the case. So what is your feel? What do you feel about that whole thing? Where it's again like there's I see more and more people popping up and kind of talking about the field of sync and talking about the how their product can help you or how their course or how their community or stuff like that. What do you feel about it these days, where people are coming in and are they qualified to do it? Are they not? Like, what's your take on it since you've been in this world for a while?
Um, I would say I'm still kind of like a newcomer. There was a couple people before I even started doing the coaching thing. I think that the methodology is pretty much the same overall.
Mm,
What really differentiates is, A, are they still in the field doing it? Because back when I was coming up as a musician, I didn't want to study under anyone that wasn't touring or gigging or doing whatever. Because I mean, the the whole reason that the master apprentice approach works with learning music with private lessons is because they're actually doing what you want to learn how to do.
right.
So if they're not actually landing placements or their music doesn't sound to a certain degree, to me that shows a lack of authenticity to a certain extent. Not saying that like they're not. I mean, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. Uh, but when it comes to, I think finding the higher quality uh, programs, platforms, what have you, it's the genuine care that they put in to want to help that
Yep.
makes all of the difference. And
Yeah.
sometimes that could be the results that they help their clients get. Sometimes it's just the fact that um, they you can tell by their network that they're well respected and things of that nature. When that happens, I think it's easy to tell, okay, this person actually genuinely wants to help versus like
Yeah.
they're just, it's a quote unquote cash grab, as
Yeah. It's a
one
money
had
grab.
mentioned. So like it's just like that's my take on it, because again, I mean there's as long as as long as people are being helped, like I don't have a huge problem with it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Because
Right. Right.
there's more. I mean, the more people that know about sync, the better off all musicians will be. So
Mm,
like if they got more information, all to it. Like that's great.
yeah.
Because I really wish I would have had something like that when I was coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's my honest take on it. There's nothing wrong with it, just as long
Mm,
as you're actually helping people.
mm. 100%. Yeah, I feel like my take's always been a bit cynical or dramatic, or like I don't know, like it's been an interesting thing where I mean, people feel like they were done wrong when they don't get the right information,
Hmm.
and then they say stuff that doesn't really that doesn't really sit well with me, about other people. I don't remember if it was it the episode, I don't remember. It's with I think it was with you, that somebody was like, "Oh, all these sync influencers, la 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 la," and he was like, it was like on my Instagram. It was one of the. It was weird because I don't tend to get like negative comments on my stuff, but like somebody came up and like made the time to actually say something that is not true, that I felt offended by, because like you're my homie, and like it's a weird dichotomy, and just like, for me, 2024 was a year that I felt like an imposter so many times. I'm not gonna lie, like I feel almost like my music is not in a level where people want to become like that, where I can lift, but then people approach me and ask me to teach them, and it's like, damn, it's a weird thing, because I'm getting this imposter syndrome for myself, but I'm also getting requests from people who are close to me, who are like, man, like I'd read your book, like the people literally say, like, sell me something, like literally tell me that. um and even with you last year, like, you were so supportive, and you even like kind of you got with me on a call, and you were like, yeah man, like anything you need, I got you, and stuff like that. And it's just been so interesting to kind of find myself in this situation where people try to acknowledge me and try to tell me to do stuff like that, but I just feel like, nah, I don't think I'm there yet. Maybe I haven't learned from the person who's there. Maybe I don't feel like I'm there. Maybe I don't have enough credentials or things like. It's just like, it's such a weird place, and I feel like that because we're in episode 100, like I got to keep it for real. Like, I've had so much imposter syndrome in 2024 that this year I feel like it's all about just taking off the layers for me, taking shedding off layers, and being able to acknowledge what I have been doing and what I can do for others. Does that If that makes sense?
Totally. I think one of the things that there's a I don't know if you've seen on my email signature, I live and die by this quote. It says it's by Edison, I believe, and it says vision is hallucination without execution. So I'm a huge proponent of fire ready aim. So like
Yep.
I'm not very afraid of making mistakes because that's
Yep.
where you learn the most. So
Right.
like it's interesting that you say this because I made some content about this earlier today. It's like a
Mhm.
whiteboard thing.
Yep.
And essentially, and I don't know if you've seen this video before, but it talks about like analysis paralysis is highly susceptible in musicians because of how self-aware we're trying to think in the past about what we've played, in the present what we're playing now, and in the future what we're going to play while we're
Right.
recording and things of that
Right.
nature.
Right.
And so there's a lot of information that you're taking in, and for some reason I think musicians in particular, myself included, it's really easy to postpone action because we feel like we don't know enough.
Mm.
And the experience to me is the best teacher. So
Say that
if
again.
it
Say that again. Say that again.
Yeah,
Say that again.
you know what I mean. Like it's true. Like experience is the only way you actually you. Of course, we're going to be bad at something if we've never done it before. So
Right.
like, if we, for me, I've tried to train myself to think if I can get over like stinking at something for however long, however many months, however many years, and I'm still going to get to that goal, then I might as well go ahead and get started. And
Yeah.
I think, especially, bro, like let's be honest here, 100 episodes, most people on podcasts don't get past episode 6. Like
I know.
that's a legit statistic. So like
Mm.
again, congratulations on getting to 100. That's quite a feat and should
Yeah.
not be played down by any means because
Yeah.
it's a very cool thing. And you got to also think, man, consistency is what separates separates the people that maybe are worthy of that kind of imposter syndrome versus the ones that are doing the work. And you're, to me, I mean, just based off of what I've been seeing, also on the sidelines, like you're doing the work. So like,
Mm.
bro, that's all it's all about.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been an interesting, like it's been an interesting thing to grapple with, where like my mind's like, you're not doing enough, you're not this, you're not that. And then like I see what's on paper. I see a Universal album, I see a BMG album, I see a Warren Chappell album. What, like I see all these things and I'm like, what other mountain do I need to conquer in order to be successful, like to
Mhm.
be actually somebody that can help other people. And I'm like, this doesn't fucking end like this. If I'm just gonna keep, if I'm just gonna keep doing that, it's just I might as well, like I might as well extend the goalpost to something impossible and just like I don't know, and just fucking cry in my bed all day long. But it's just in the end of the day, it's about, and that's what led to uh, uh, I'm gonna start doing retreats. Like I'm gonna start bringing people here to
Nice.
Bali,
That's gonna be.
and we're
Oh
gonna
yeah, I
talk
remember
about
you
it.
mentioned something about that. I was like,
We've
sign me up. That sounds like a
we've
blast.
mentioned that. I think last year I've mentioned it multiple times, and my listeners are like, "Okay, what's going on?" kind of thing. And I was like, "Okay, I gotta do this from a few reasons. One reason is I selfishly want to have community around me. And the second one, I've done so many transformational things here in Bali. So I'm kind of, I know my way around the island, and I've
Mhm.
done really cool things in the island. And I'm like, wow, like what if I can bring all my homies and composers and make an experience for them where we write songs, like where we, and I get goosebumps only thinking about it, where we write songs for 5 days, make an EP for a brief, but also work on ourselves and work on growth and go and do like some workshops, like learn the Balinese instruments, like do things like that in between, kind of cleansers that elevate our creativity. And it's just like I feel like that's where it's going for me, where all these years of being so self criticizing, it comes to this, to the fact that okay, I've done 100 episodes of this show, and now there's some people watching, but these people also want to link, just like what you were saying gave me goosebumps, because like you meeting your community is like a homecoming. It's not, it's like your community is not there to just stay in their computers and like geek out
Mhm.
and like, oh yeah, la la la. They're also there to meet and actually like like and to feel each other's energy and to feed off of each other's energy and to make some bangers and like to go through hard things, go for a hike, do things like that. And I'm like, man, this is something I have to do. And I know that I'm gonna fail a bunch of times miserably while I'm doing it, but I feel like that's the direction that I want to take myself in 2025, because I've been thinking about it for so long, and it's time to kind of go and say, okay, let's lean in, let's lean into this.
Totally, man. I'm all for it. And let me know how I can support. Cause like that, I think people don't realize how much like your self-awareness and your mental state, your energy really affects your music. It really does. Like my music from when I can hear the difference between music, and not even just from a developmental stage, but like the music and melodies that I was making before I was able to pay my bills with music and after. It's a
Mm,
completely different thing. And it
mm,
also might come with age, but like it's just really cool to know how, because we're human, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
That those everything's kind of connected as far as with our creativity.
yeah. D- uh, 2000%. And I mean, yeah, I feel like it's there has to be a period where to everyone, where we don't make music for the right reasons. I feel like there has to be a period like that for everyone, and it's totally fine. And like there are people like Rick Rubin, which I have his book right in front of my face, and he's like, yeah, make art from creativity is art, and you should never taint it, and all these things. But I'm like, well, I appreciate you saying that, and I feel like everyone has their times where they want to be like somebody else, and that they will try to be like somebody else, and that is totally fine, because that is what creates us in the end of the day, as long as we're not slaves to it. And I hope that I'm not a slave to it, and I hope that the people I know are not going to be slaves to it. But I've seen it happen where, it's taken this thing where, just like you said, where music is the means. Music is what creates the means for living. So people are like, they approach it as kind of like this
Formulaic process.
formulaic 9 to 5 process, where they just like go in, make a few cues, get out kind of thing, which I appreciate. And I mean, I just don't, I'm just not like that. I feel like I'm not like that. And I feel like most people are not like that. Like, they want to make music and feel some sort of a contribution.
Totally. And I mean, me being selfish, man, every time I step in or open my DAW, I want to make something better than what I made before.
Mm,
It's just a personal challenge that I think every musician normally has some inkling of. And it's, I think, super important.
100%. 100%. What's your, so like, 2024 has been a year of trial and error for you. I feel like a lot of new things coming. And
Totally.
again, I can only imagine what I'm going to talk to your community in a few days, but I can only imagine what it looks like now. It was so dope last year, to speak to them, because they are hungry people, and I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And what is like 25 for you? What is your kind of vision for this year coming?
25 is all about branding for me. I'm slowly doing a rebrand for my business and things now.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it inculcates everything that I'm doing. So, for instance, Shades, the venue is too packed, so we're looking for a larger one this upcoming year, which is going to be really fun, but also kind of daunting because we like the enclosed space because it feels really intimate, but we
Yeah.
can't help as many people in that room anymore. So we want to try to expand. So Clint and I are working on that in the process right now. Um, Doing some other cool sponsorship things with other brands that for our private community. That's something I really want to try to do, just because
Mm,
like we have a great great group of what I like to call sync mercenaries. So like if there's any way I can help them with the products that they or tools that they need to get the job done, like that'll be really cool for me
yeah.
personally. And then let me think. I want to just circle back really quick to something that you mentioned as far as with like there's always times where music production maybe be slowed down to a halt just because of other things that are happening. And I
Mm,
totally had that feeling or resonated with that 2-3 months before Shades happened, just because there was a lot of other moving parts this past year. So what I'm starting to do now is organize more of my time in that manner. So I'm going to have a season of building catalog versus a season of organizing for speaking events and things of that nature. That way, I can continue to build the brand that I see would be helpful for as many people as possible moving forward. So
mm,
that's the goal, is to build more of a brand, not just for sync licensing, but just music creativity in general.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And I've talked to his name is Aaron Ebbage. He's a really low key dude. He's amazing producer, and insane individual. And what he was saying, that he has, again, just like you were speaking, seasons for everything. And he's a really successful music producer. His sound is just insane. He also, I slipped the artist that he produces, slipped my head, but she collaborated with Lizzie McAlpine. Yeah,
Oh.
she collaborated with Jacob Collier and a bunch of people. She's on the rise, but she's already pretty big. But he produced her, and he was saying that these days he has a season for everything, just like you were saying, like a season for more business oriented, like getting the deals in,
Hmm.
where he focuses on business, and then a season for production creativity, and a season of socializing, and it's really interesting for me because for me everything is is like a blur. So I really appreciate that for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, it's just like we were saying before, man. Like focus on one thing at a time, you're going to get it done a lot more efficiently and faster. So if I can do that, so for instance, I'm off the schedule, so to speak, for Shades at this moment. So I think I'm, and I never make music at this rate anymore. But like, I think I'm on EP number 3 for the start of this year already, just because it's like I know I have limited time, so I'm trying to pump out as much as I can before
Yeah,
stuff gets crazy again. So like having those kinds of deadlines and delegation for, okay, this is what we're doing at this time, seems to be really helpful for just being productive.
I
So
love
that's
this.
definitely the focus.
I love this. This is exactly why I love to do gun for hire works. Like do that's why the way that I my head works is if you give me a solid deadline and a solid project to work on,
You're
I'm
good
so
for it.
much more productive. I'm just like
Yeah.
I put myself in and I feel like it's an entrepreneur thing. It's a lot of things that when there's a deadline, when there's an external deadline, it's even easier
Mhm.
than internal deadlines, because internal deadlines is like, okay, well, I didn't do it. Well, let me give myself another week for it. But then when there's other people kind of counting on you, then it's for me,
Now it's
it gives me an
serious.
incentive. That's why I like working with libraries and custom houses more than I like to just like pitch to agents. I feel like some people can work like that where they pitch to agents, and for me it's a big learning curve to go and do that. So I
Oh yeah,
really
it's
actually
apples and oranges.
what?
Yeah, I agree with
Oh
you. It's
yeah, yeah,
apples and
apples and
oranges working with
100%.
yeah.
And I have friends that have had success with agents and stuff like that. Me, not yet, not really yet. Um, but like for me, the way that my head is structured is if I have a frame and an agent won't give you the frame, you need to just give him the
Mhm.
stuff. Um, but if I have a frame, like a time and a frame to do it in, I am just I'm just on fire. I can be on fire. I can be really, really efficient. But
Yeah,
without
because you have
that,
your sandbox.
yeah, exactly. And 15, I mean, 3 EPs, that's a lot. That's a lot to start the year, like, and yeah, I
It's
that gives
also
me a little
goal
bit of,
focused.
well, what?
It's also goal focused. So like next year, so what I've started to do, especially as a trailer composer,
Yeah.
pseudo trailer composer, is I will look 2-3 years ahead and find out what's going to be needed so that when it actually comes, I can flood the market. And
Mm,
so um the Spider Verse and Black Panther are going to be huge in the next 2-3 years, and so I'm trying to build as much as I can around those sonic lanes, so to speak, so that when it happens, also not just for those purposes, but that music is,
yeah,
I
around it.
believe, it's going to be more popular by the time it gets those projects get to
A
fruition
hundred
anyway,
percent. 100%.
and
What
then it's
these
going to also influence the market to do the same. So like
Yeah.
it gives me an extra push if I'm able to land something like that. So like
what
those are
these
my
what these
my
movies
big
what
goals.
these movies have done to music is amazing, in my opinion. The way that it moved it towards like more traditional instruments, plus like, I mean, Spider Verse arguably moved it
Oh my
towards, the
goodness.
last Spider Verse moved it towards like more mainstream, I guess, with the Daniel Pemberton's sound design. I think I told
Oh
you
my
we talked
goodness.
about it. Like Spider Verse is my holy grail. So it's
Yeah, man. Have you seen some of the breakdowns of Daniel Pemberton like messing with the analog gear and stuff?
no.
Oh, I gotta
Oh
send you those videos.
yeah,
They are
please.
insane, bro.
I mean, he's insane. Just like he's unreachable, kind of. And like from what I see in socials, but he's so freaking good.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
that guy.
and he has his he obviously has a signature, like his synth work and stuff like that. It's his signature. It's not like he has huge drums or anything like that, but it's just like it fits together. In all the movies he's done, they
Oh yeah.
they kind of sound a lot like each other. Not in a way that they sound exactly the same, but they
It's
have
his
these
signature sound.
elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um, that I feel like people will be imitating for the next Spider Verses. That's what it kind of what I see, because man, like the do I like the soundtrack for Spider Verse 2? Not a fan, not a huge fan.
What about the
But
OST?
well, what?
The OST, like, so you have the mainstream album that comes out for
Oh
the
yeah,
movie, but there's
yeah,
also normally
exactly.
the OST of like the original music that was used legitimately in the movie, like
Yeah, and I
underscore
mean,
and all that
like
kind of stuff.
the fact that like Blackway and What's Up Danger, the fact that this track is just still going and it's still in the movie, and that just shows, I feel like, to me and to people, what one track can do to your career, because
Oh yeah.
this track is still on the map. It's still happening. And it was in the trailer for two too. Like it was just like it's crazy how this one track has, and this dude has been working insane with position and all that kind of
Oh yeah,
stuff.
Blackway. Yeah.
Uh, he's doing amazing work, and but the way that this track hit, like because I feel like the sound design and just like the rhythm of the track, it's just so amazing to watch how like innovation, just like you were saying, it's like it's almost like the producer. I don't know if it was made by Coco or who, but it was just like for. It's just like I feel like this track has such a long shelf life. It's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, that's normally every when you're, especially I would say industry producers and stuff, but like that's the game, is to try to make something that will stand the test of time. You know what I'm saying? And like to me, doing research and stuff, Black Skinhead from Kanye is one of them,
Oh yeah,
right? Like I still get that that
yeah,
element in briefs from time to time. And I definitely think that that song in particular from Spider Verse, "What's Up Danger," is probably going to be on that list as well
yeah,
for a very long time.
yeah. I mean, yeah, these two tracks, 100%. For sports, it's like it's the
Oh
number
yeah, it's
one.
just
Black Skinheads is the number one ask song for sure. And I've made
mm-hmm,
many tracks that attempted these freaking drums, but it's just like
right.
unachievable. No way. I'm just
Crazy stuff.
just gonna leave it on that at that. And so, in collaboration, what are you looking for, like in collaboration, and what you're doing, like because you said that collaboration is a big thing for you. Um, so what is your kind of thing like with collaboration right now? What's your kind of strategy with it?
Collaboration last year was something that I wanted to attempt more often because I was curious about how to work with agencies, because as a producer that's normally something that you don't do. And
Mm,
so collaboration with artists was to get into those, help the artists get signed and also be able to have access to those kinds of briefs as well.
right.
This year collaboration is more of a timing thing for me than anything else, because
Mm,
I feel like I know a lot of great talented people. It's just a matter of, because they're so talented like yourself, um, everyone's doing a lot of different things. And so when an opportunity presents itself and we both align as far as with the timing of when we could actually create a product for whatever need is being asked for at that moment, then
mm,
I feel like that's normally where the synergy comes in, because now it's like, oh man, I have a privilege to work with this super talented artist. They just so happen to have the slot for me. You know what I mean? So like that, and then also, for instance, I do a lot of pre-production, just so that again, I don't like wasting time in the DAW. if I don't know what I'm doing. So like I almost have an idea of what the track I want to create already kind of sounds like before I open up the
Wow.
program. And
Wow.
so sometimes I'll have a meeting with whoever I'm going to collaborate with first. We'll make a playlist. We were talking about this earlier this afternoon, where I'll make a playlist. I'll use an algorithm to try to find other songs that sound like that, and then from there we'll both agree like, yeah, we like this sound. We'll maybe take a piece of this, use some elements from here, and then like Frankenstein something that sounds totally different. And normally that's the process I like to do that. And I normally will give at least leeway for maybe one or two songs that just we're just messing around, we're just trying to get used to each other, because I
Yeah.
feel like that being part of the process helps us to uh understand how to learn from one another, you know what I mean?
I love that. I
Because
love
that
that.
that to me, that's like the most important thing, is that if we're collaborating, you have something, either you have something that I don't understand yet, or um a process that I just haven't unlocked that I'm really really curious about. Normally that's normally what happens when I collaborate with people, and it's always like a really cool experience, because at the end of the day you get a great product out of it, because both of you have aligned goals when it comes to we're creating something for a purpose.
Mm. Yeah, and supporting skill sets. That's the biggest thing. I feel like
Hmm.
supporting a skill set. So yeah, what I've been doing in the past year was I've been just like putting in my superpower, which is like just making a production, like a skeleton production with my vocals and everything. You got everything, everything, everything. And then my co-producers and co-collaborators usually just like make it from this to this. So they
Finishers,
kind
yeah.
of because yeah, I feel like I'm still not in maybe the place. Yeah, I've mixed and mastered some tracks of mine, but I feel like I still have a way to go when it comes to mix and mastering. Plus, like sound design, I love doing everything myself, but I feel like since I'm laying everything already, if there's somebody that comes in and puts in some grand like sound design, like all the risers, all the stuff that like that puts the track together, and somebody else gets to interpret that, that's to me for me it's been a great addition for me, to be honest, to just realize what I cannot do and then give somebody else the ability to make it what it is. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, you think about it, it almost gives it more creative depth, because like
Right.
you might have had an intention for it, but someone else might go, "That's cool. What if we do this also, or flip it on its head?"
Yeah.
And like it just opens up even more possibilities as far as what it could become. And
Yeah.
I like that approach a lot.
I love the fact that you kind of throw stuff at the wall before things and kind of talk about things, because I feel like that's something I don't do enough. Maybe it's because me and my collaborators understand each other. I don't know. Maybe it's
It could
just
be a
because
synergy thing.
maybe it's just because I'm my ego's in my way. I don't know what's the thing there. But yeah, what you're speaking to and kind of just like getting on a call and realizing like what this looks like, and also just going being in front of a DAW and understanding what you're going to be producing, I feel like these are great takeaways for people to have from this. Just these two are huge in my opinion, and I'll have to even think on them 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just this is all stuff again from trial and error, because like if I really think about all the responsibilities, um, content creation, scripting, um, managing helping to manage the community, making my own music. I'm tied to like X amount of different publishers. There's a lot of stuff to do. So like when I actually set on a course to do something, like I want to make sure that I'm not wasting any unnecessary time. So
I love
like I might be a little bit obsessive about it, but like I think it does help with just making sure things get done as efficiently as possible, just because there's so many other things I want to try to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Time, I mean, man, time management is a big thing for me. It's something that I was, still am not the best at. And I know that once time management is mastered in a way by people, then it just creates so much space, and it creates
Totally.
so much of an ability to do things that, uh, um maybe I didn't even think possible. You know what I mean? Because the time is visual in a way. How do you So let me ask you this. Like, how do you block your day? How do you block things in your day and in your schedule?
Okay, so I block weeks actually. So, for instance, no, I guess technically no, it is days because what I'll do is Mondays are normally content creation, script writing, taking care because I also meet with my community on Mondays, so like that's more of a business taking care of everyone day. Thursday Tuesday and Thursday, and depending on what I need to do on Friday, those are nothing but music. Like it's almost hard, and I have to probably work on this, but it's almost hard to contact me because I'm like shut down. I'm working on briefs or an EP that I'm working on. Like that's it. And unless something crazy happens, where like maybe I need to fill out some information or something, I don't focus on business at all. So Mondays and Wednesdays I focus on business, and then the majority of my other time on the weekdays, it's all music. And
Wow.
I will normally wake up at about 5 o'clock and spend at least the first 4 hours on either music or planning things of that nature, so that by the time I actually get rolling with no distractions, so to speak. I think we talked about this before. Like if I'm working on a brief, I will start at 5, and by the time everyone else wakes up and starts asking for things, or I got to take care of other things for family or whatever, like I've already kind of done enough work for me to feel productive. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Wow.
So like
Interesting.
that's normally how I kind of try to regulate everything. It's always like depends on if there's a larger fire over here I can't let burn anymore, then I gotta go take
Yeah.
care of that, right? But
Yeah.
it's yeah, I try to manage it that way.
That's so interesting, man. I love how different people will work in different ways. I feel like I'm more like you, whereas like the morning is a more of a creative leave me alone place for me, where I would, yeah, either plan or, but yeah, I love the fact that you wake up at 5 and just go at it. I mean, like there's writers that do it, that just block themselves in the first hours of the day, and they say that this is when the creative juices come. And arguably, like, at times my morning voice is way better than my evening voice, like just because it's more thick for me
Mm-hmm.
to work with my instrument. It's very interesting what you're saying, because I don't start work until later. I don't start work until 10, 11, and then I
Mm-hmm.
usually, and then every day it's like 11 to till about 6. I'm just like locked in. But it's so interesting to see, because what you're doing is not the only way, but it's a really cool way, in my opinion, to approach this, because these are hours, the first hours of the day are really, can be really, really productive. So,
Yeah.
huh, you're giving me a
Yeah,
lot to
because I
think
mean, like
about,
I was
though.
saying, it's no distractions. I try to think of music and sports are very similar to me.
Hmm.
So it's just like doing drills, which was something that actually I might end up making some content on later too. I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah, 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 yeah,
sidebarring these things because it's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's actually a
Do it.
cool idea. Maybe I should dive into more than that later.
Let's
But
go.
like um finding ways to exercise your skill set so that it's more adept. So when you actually get to the DAW, it's like, oh yeah, you can just do this, that, and the other and be done quicker. But like
Mm,
the magic, I can't remember where I read this, but like there's a couple authors or poets that say the magic hour is 4 o'clock because that's when either people are coming home from working late or before people wake up. It's like the most peaceful time, at least in the
mm.
States for me. So like if I can reach that, whether that means going to bed earlier or whatever, that it's just this magic time that you get to devote whatever you want to that space. And to me, it's just really cool to have that. And to, I mean, that's honestly where a lot of the work gets done, is in the mornings for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, you're making me think a lot because I've I used to be a real like early morning person. Now with my partner, I'm not that. I'm not that anymore because she's kind of like, just stay one more
Yeah, it's
moment.
hard to
Blah,
be
blah.
disciplined, man. I
And,
totally,
like
I
I
understand.
call it the honey trap. But but I just feel like I mean it's so true. Like these hours are quiet. There's something silent about them. Here, to be honest, where we currently moved to a new place where we're surrounded by rice fields and nature and stuff like that. So like I wake up, take my dog for this scenic walk, no leash, no anything. She's just like running, buzzing around, like sniffing other dogs' butts and just like enjoying her life. And like there's here, I feel like there's less the sense of busy, because it's just not the way the island moves.
Mhm.
But the most beautiful hours, in my opinion, still, like I've always thought that, and I still think it is sunrise. It's just like walking outside, seeing that sunrise, sun come up. There is nothing more magical to me about it. Even sunsets, it's like it's easy work. Sunrise, it's like you've actually made a point to wake up, get out of your house, and look at this beautiful thing coming up. And again, I'll send you a photo of it one time, but it's just like seeing that here right outside of my house. It's just like holy
Very cool.
hell. So I'm taking so much from this, to be honest. Like I'm taking so much from my time with you every time I spend time with you. And I feel honored. I feel honored.
Oh, bro, the feeling is mutual. This is always really really fun to do, just because like we get a chance to talk on levels of music, and how deep they get is just always awe inspiring to me, because it's rare that you've that I have conversations like this all the time. So like it's
Mm,
always a pleasure.
mm. Let's close this with like what are you super grateful for these days?
I'm super grateful for the support system that I have. Because when it comes to like some of the things that we had mentioned earlier about, sometimes there's negativity that comes with having a public facing brand, or just, I mean, I'm getting into my my middle aged years, so to speak. So there's just a lot of stuff that just
That's crazy. You look
there's a lot.
young as fuck.
No, man, like I try to, that is something else that I'm super grateful for, is health. I haven't really had a lot of issues yet, and I want to try to keep it that way.
Touch
So
wood.
health, family, and just being, having a sense of gratitude for the support system and the people around me has been something that you couldn't put a price on. And so that includes yourself as well. Like I really truly do appreciate the people that are around me, that are either supportive or are willing to help in whatever way possible if needed. And I think that's just the
Mm.
coolest thing.
Amen. Whew. Episode 100, man. Fucking hell. Episode 100.
Freaking awesome, man. Congratulations again. This has been totally like an honor for me.
Oh my god. Uh, well, I'm gonna start crying. Let's end this here, and we'll talk offline. But man, love you. So happy to have you in my life, and thanks for coming on.
Oh man, anything for the homies. You know that.